definitely intrigued by him. Jordan Ta'amu, the quarterback from Ole Miss, he sprays the ball around. I'm not suggesting that he's a guy that I want to get a high draft pick on, but he does have a legitimate arm, and I do have some reservations about some of these quarterbacks. Once you get past that top level, and most of them are underclassmen, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. So I'm kind of intrigued by him. There's a lot of receivers. Godwin from Georgia, DeMarcus Lodge from Ole Miss. Some of the receivers that I've been intrigued by, kind of in the past. And then perhaps the guy that I'm the most intrigued by, just because he jumped out on tape for me before, and is a little bit more of a small school guy, is the BYU linebacker Sione Takitaki. He's an athletic player. He's interesting. And it's not just because of the name. I mean, he's an interesting player, and so he's the guy that I definitely am looking forward to. He's playing at the East West Shrine Game, and I'm a big fan of BYU football for a long time. They've contributed a lot of legitimate NFL prospects in there. Taki is the one of the East West Shrine, at least, that I'm probably the most intrigued. Is there? I said I wouldn't, ask you if there's anybody that jumped out at you, but is there, if any of these All-Star games, is there any that you are planning on attending, or do you just have your scouts kind of here, there, and everywhere, and you're just getting feedback from them?
I'm getting feedback. I'm not attending any All-Star games.
Well, that's true. Who am I going to sit next to, Scott? I mean, I got flying out on Monday to the Senior Bowl. I'm going to be up there by myself, so I'll FaceTime you or something.
I'll miss you in the stands, buddy.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well,
many days.
Well, if I get cold, then I'll text you, and we can just kind of reminisce over the phone. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let's go ahead and switch over then. Now, we've been talking about these All-Star games, and, of course, the majority of them are dedicated to senior prospects. And one of the things that I've been intrigued by over the years is that some of the All-Star games have been a little bit more willing to allow players that are maybe athletically are considered underclassmen. Because they graduated, then they're eligible to play, say, in the Senior Bowl. We talked about Daniel Jones last week, the quarterback from Duke, who I'm very excited to see in person there, see if he can kind of erase my concerns about his arm strength the way that Baker Mayfield did a year ago, as I mentioned. But Daniel Jones is technically he's a redshirt junior. And so I'm excited that he's going to be able to play in that game. But let's go back to the underclassmen just as a whole. It looks like there's going to be another record-breaking class of underclassmen this year. Is there of the underclassmen, I'm just most intrigued by the improvements I now see to the quarterback class, where we're going to see guys like Dwayne Haskins and Jones and then Kyler Murray specifically. And that's where I thought I'd start off with you, Scott. You've been on Kyler Murray since literally the first week of the season before his Heisman Trophy campaign. And you've been saying from the get-go, he's a football player. So, I know you're not surprised by what's going on here, but can you just talk about, what have you seen from Kyler Murray? Is he the player that you thought he was, or has he even impressed you throughout this process?
Well, you know what, Rob, as you're well aware, I'd love to answer the question because I got opinions on all those guys.
Yeah.
But I can't do it because of my contracts with other teams.
Gotcha.
Okay. The thing about it, what you brought up from the get-go, I think is really important, is the fact of these All-Star games. If a guy, declares by January 15th, which has already happened, why not let them play in the All-Star game? It makes the NFL better. It makes the evaluation process better. And it gives you more success in the draft.
I think that's an excellent point. I've been kind of arguing that for a long time, and that's not necessarily where I thought our conversation would go, but I am all for banging the table on that idea because, I just think that it is better for the players. I mean, it's not helping anyone to have a player get drafted way earlier than he should have based on what we think we know, based off of their underclassmen tape. If we get a chance to really, as scouts, really have those conversations and really do that apples to apples comparison for, say, a Dwayne Haskins or any of these other underclassmen, especially like the redshirt sophomores and guys like that, the players who maybe have struggled with injuries, I think that it will help NFL teams, to help us in the scouting community kind of weed out the players who maybe aren't quite as, maybe shouldn't be drafted as high as we thought. But quite the opposite is true too. It could definitely help a lot of these underclassmen and boost their stock. So I think that it would be something that they and their agents perhaps would also be willing to consider. I can only imagine how much the stock of some of these prospects in recent years who just have all the athletic ability, but we didn't even get a chance to see it until the combine a month from now.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's unique about it is, Rob, is the fact that, first of all, it'd be great from the standpoint of just sitting down with them and getting to know them better in an all-star game.
Yeah.
If they don't want to play, the agents are going to say don't play. I understand that. They're doing it now, with the bowl games.
Yep.
But the thing about it is, it's about knowing the person. And it's about being around. Because, at the Senior Bowl, there's a lot of agents that bring underclassmen there just to interview.
Yep.
Just to, they can't practice. They can't do any of that. But if the guy wants to play, which I respect, let him play. You worry about getting injured, I understand that. Yeah. You worry about losing money, I understand that. But still, it's football,
Exactly. It is, and that's, like you said, I haven't gone into the Senior Bowl since 2001, like I said. I remember the agents that would parade some of their players through the stands and just basically be walking them around and introducing them to general managers, and you'd see those GMs or their the team scouts who would basically go over there, area scouts would go over there and have those conversations with them. And I always thought, wow, that's what an opportunity that is to really get to know this player one-on-one before they've had all that combine training that basically is going to make their answers so boring and not them. So that.
Well, and the thing about it is, Rob, is I always told my scouts, don't touch underclassmen during the fall. Let them do what they do. Don't piss the coach off. Don't do anything like that, because of course all coaches want their good players to stay in.
Of course. Yeah.
Because that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
But you get the Super Bowl. I'll never forget. I went out with Witten. And we had a couple beers together and just sat there and talked, and not just about him, but we talked about the other NFC players he played with, the guys he went against in the SEC.
Gotcha.
And it's so valuable, it's not even funny, because they know, a guy like Witten, he knew who can and can't play. It was amazing. I just sat there, I'm like, wow, I wish I had a pen and paper so I could write this stuff down. But he was just rolling about linebackers, about safeties, about his team, about what he saw, from the sideline during games, about running backs, receivers, quarterbacks. It was invaluable. It was so important, and that's when you start figuring out who really the player is.
Exactly. No, it just shows that he pays attention. You know what I mean? He knows who's good. For one, I think I'm a big believer that players know who can ball. That's the thing, is that I love to ask players, like, all right, who's the best player on your team? Who's the best player you played all year long? All that kind of stuff. And it's very, very rare that they mention a player who later on does not wind up being successful. Obviously injuries can, wreak havoc, but players know who can ball is kind of one of my beliefs. And it's kind of funny you mentioned Jason Witten. Obviously his success on the field, the Dallas Cowboys, probably future Hall of Famer, and then and then off the field, obviously doing the Monday night coverage. Maybe you and he didn't know, and you guys were kind of training each other back in the day, for his future career. So that's kind of cool to hear that. Yeah, I remember seeing Jason Witten in the stands. I remember seeing Greg Olsen in the stands. Since it's speaking about tight ends, it's so many underclassmen. It was always fascinating to me. Where sometimes, I would go out Monday, or some of those evenings in Mobile as well. There's a couple of different fun little, places around,
Oh, yeah.
Moe's and others. And so, anyways, and sometimes you'd see players out and you get to see them as individuals. You get to see coaches or scouts or whatever as, just as guys, not the kind of the celebrity, but it was, what I always found fascinating was how nervous the agents were that some other agent would show up and kind of wine and dine and try and steal their player. And so it was kind of a fascinating peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of kind of that whole process. And so I'm happy you mentioned that, because I think that the underclassmen going to All-Star games is kind of a fascinating topic. I'd love to see more players actually get to participate and compete. It was one of the reasons I went to that NFLPA Collegiate Bowl a few years ago. That was fascinating when they would not allow the NFL scouts to go, but me as a media member, I was allowed to go. It was kind of cool to have that access. And so I just really do enjoy that part of it. And I wish that they would kind of take your suggestion into consideration, that maybe we should be adding more underclassmen to these senior all-star games.
Totally agree. And I understand it's a big business, but totally agree. And the good ones aren't going to play, but they can still show up and be there through the interview process and get height and weight, all that stuff. But it's best for the kid. It's best for the organizations. It's best for the NFL.
Well, exactly. It really is. And so I don't know. It's something I think that maybe some of our buddies that run some of these all-star games might be listening in and maybe taking that into consideration. We'll see. Well, speaking of the fact that we have some buddies that are obviously in the league and doing big things, some of them just got hired on to be new head coaches in the NFL. And so I was kind of curious, about some of the head coaches that maybe or you feel comfortable with, and or that you think are particularly good fits for their new programs. Now, I'm an optimist, Scott. I want them all to be successful, and obviously that can't happen. There's going to be one Super Bowl champion at the end of it, and everybody else is going to feel like, what might have been. But I'm especially intrigued by a couple of fits, and I think the easy one to jump off with is Cleveland, because Freddie Kitchens, there's going to be some familiarity there between Baker and Kitchens, and I think that's obviously important. But, the one that I'm kind of the most intrigued by, I have to admit, is Bruce Arians go to Tampa Bay. And it's just because I do believe that Bruce Arians and Jameis Winston, I really think that what Jameis Winston does well, in my opinion, is stand strong in the pocket, look downfield, and if he can throw the ball deep, I think that he can be successful in this league. And I like the weapons that he's had there. And I really like Bruce Arians' offense. What he did with Carson Palmer, what he did with Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger, big pocket, strong traditional pocket passers. I think this is Jameis Winston's best chance at success, and I don't mean that in any negative way towards any of his previous coaches. I'm just a big BA fan and have been for a long time, and think that he might be kind of the thing that might be able to help spark Jameis in Tampa Bay. Was there any of these coaches that, for personal reasons, for professional reasons, whatever, that you think are especially a good fit for their new teams?
I think Freddie Kitchens,
yep.
I'm not being biased whatsoever. I think from the standpoint, like you said about the quarterback and their relationship, which is the most important thing in the building during the season, hands down the most important thing.
Yeah.
But also he's a tough guy,
exactly.
And he's going to get the most out of his guys. Does it mean they're a playoff team? Who knows? But you know what? He's not going to back down, and he's going to drive those guys to be good football players. I think LaFleur's a good hire. I know he's young, and everybody's trying to go Sean McVay style,
yep.
and off-minded and all that, but he is very intelligent. But the key thing is, because I've done it twice when I was a general manager, hire a first-time head coach.
Yep.
And first year, every day is a new day. I got to worry about, the offense, the defense. Whoa. I got a secretary over here. I got a president over here that wants to talk to me. You get pulled in so many facets, it's not even funny. So it's, I pull for, like, I'm with you. Any head coach I root for, any team I root for, just, stay healthy, and have success, because the league's the